My name is Fiona, and I'm 30 years old. Last October, I flew home to Connecticut for my sister Brielle's wedding, the first time I'd been back in 4 years. 3 days before the ceremony, my parents sat Brielle down in the living room and handed her a $30,000 check. I was standing in the hallway. I'd told them about my own engagement that same week. My mom looked at me and said, "She's marrying a doctor, Fiona. Her wedding needs to be appropriate." I got nothing, not a dollar, not even a conversation about it. That moment, watching my mother write a number on a check that she'd never write for me, that was the moment I stopped waiting for my parents to see me. And what happened at that reception 3 days later? Nobody in my family saw it coming. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe. But only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop where you're watching from and your local time in the comments. Let me take you back to the week it started. The flight from Seattle to Hartford. The clouds broke somewhere over Pennsylvania, and afternoon light flooded the cabin. I turned away from the window and tucked my feet underneath me. The seat was wide enough that I didn't have to press against the armrest. Business class, though I never called it that out loud. My cashmere cardigan was the most expensive thing I was wearing, and it looked like something you'd grab off a clearance rack if you didn't know the label. Marcus sat beside me in his flannel button-down, reading a dog-eared architecture journal. He reached over without looking up and squeezed my hand. He knew what this trip meant. He knew because I'd almost canceled it 3 times. 4 years. That's how long I'd stayed away from Connecticut. Not because of distance. Seattle to Hartford is a 6-hour flight, and I've taken longer trips for a Tuesday product launch. I stayed away because of the last phone call. I'd called my mother to tell her Marcus and I were moving in together. Her response, "You always make everything about yourself, Fiona. Your sister just got promoted." I hadn't hung up on her. I'd said, "Congratulations to Brielle." And then I stopped calling. Not dramatically, not with a declaration. I just stopped. And nobody noticed for 7 weeks. Marcus lowered his journal. "You okay?" "Defining okay loosely," I said. "Yes." He smiled. "I brought Dramamine if you need it." "For the flight or for the family?" "Both." My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. The first in 2 weeks, and only because I'd confirmed our flights. "Brielle's engagement party is Saturday. Try to be on time for once." 4 years away, and the first message from my mother wasn't, "I miss you." It was an instruction. I locked the screen and looked out the window. Connecticut was getting closer, whether I was ready or not. The house hadn't changed. White colonial, black shutters, a picket fence my father repainted every spring whether it needed it or not. His silver Lexus SUV sat in the driveway like it owned the street. The lawn was sharp-edged and chemical green, the kind of lawn that said, "We have standards here." Marcus pulled our rental into the driveway and cut the engine. "Ready?" "No, let's go." We walked in through the side door. The front door was for guests. My mother was in the kitchen with Brielle, hunched over a spread of cake samples on the granite island. Fondant roses, buttercream swirls, tiny gold forks. Brielle was laughing, pointing at a chocolate layer. My mother had her arm around Brielle's shoulders. When she saw me, she straightened. "Oh, you made it." Not a hug, not welcome home, just, "Oh." "Hi, Mom." Brielle waved a gold fork. "Fee, come try the hazelnut one. Tyler loves hazelnut." Tyler. The name was already everywhere. Tyler, the fiancé. Tyler, the doctor. Tyler, who was currently on FaceTime propped against the fruit bowl, wearing scrubs and a grin. "Sorry I can't be there," he said through the speaker. "Saving lives, you know." My father came in from the den, newspaper tucked under his arm. He shook Marcus's hand, briefly, the way you'd greet a delivery driver. "So, architecture," he said. "That pay well these days?" "Architecture," he repeated, like he was tasting something sour. I looked at the refrigerator while Marcus answered politely. Every inch of it was covered. Brielle's graduation photo. Brielle at prom. Brielle in Cancun. Brielle and Tyler at some hospital gala. Not one picture of me. On the kitchen counter, a thick envelope sat in plain view. Someone had written on it in my mother's handwriting, Brielle and Tyler, Wedding Fund. I picked up a hazelnut cake sample and took a bite. It was dry. Saturday evening, the house filled with 40-some guests, neighbors, church friends, my parents' golf circle, a few of Brielle's co-workers. My mother had strung fairy lights across the back patio and rented a bartender for the evening. White tablecloths, catered appetizers, a tiered display of macarons and blush and gold. 3 months of planning for an engagement party. Diane Wells stood at the center of the patio with a champagne flute raised. Her speech ran 3 full minutes. "My baby girl," she said, voice cracking with rehearsed emotion. "Finding a wonderful man, a doctor." She paused to let the word breathe. The crowd clapped on cue. I always knew Brielle would make us proud. Marcus and I stood near the hydrangeas. Nobody approached us. A few neighbors nodded politely. One woman asked Marcus if he was the caterer. Tyler arrived 40 minutes late in a Patagonia vest and an Apple Watch that caught the fairy lights. He carried a bottle of Dom Perignon, holding it by the neck like a trophy. "From the chief of surgery," he announced, shaking hands with a grip that lasted 2 beats too long. My mother beamed. My father clapped Tyler's shoulder. Aunt Trish found me near the dessert table. She was my father's older sister, lived alone in Boston, taught high school history for 30 years, never filtered a sentence in her life. "They haven't mentioned your engagement at all, have they?" she said quietly. I shook my head. "Your mother's been planning this party for 3 months, Trish said. "Your engagement. I heard about it from Facebook." Across the patio, my mother was introducing Tyler to the Hendersons. "Brielle's fiancé," she cooed. "He's a doctor." Then she glanced toward me and added, almost as an afterthought, "Oh, and Fiona's here too. She works with computers in Seattle." Computers. 8 years in tech, reduced to one word. The party wound down around 10. Caterers packed up. The bartender folded his apron. Guests drifted toward their Volvos and Suburbans. My mother called Brielle into the living room with the solemnity of a ceremony. My father was already seated in his recliner, hands folded, wearing the expression of a man who'd practiced looking generous. I was in the hallway, heading toward the coat closet, when I heard Brielle scream. Not a bad scream. A delighted one. She was holding an envelope, the thick one from the kitchen counter. Inside, a check. $30,000. Brielle threw her arms around both parents. "Oh my God, are you serious?" "You deserve the best, sweetheart," my mother said. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime day." "A doctor deserves a proper wedding," my father added. I stood in the doorway. They hadn't seen me yet, or maybe they had and it didn't matter. I stepped in. "I'm getting married too," I said. My voice was steady. "Are you contributing to mine?" The room shifted. My father looked at the newspaper on the side table as though he'd suddenly remembered an article he needed to finish. Brielle clutched the check to her chest. My mother tilted her head. "Honey, your sister is marrying a doctor. Her wedding needs to be appropriate." She paused. "You and Marcus can do something small. Something you. Something you." Marcus appeared behind me. His hand landed on my shoulder. Warm, firm, saying everything he wouldn't say out loud in their house. "It's not about favorites, Fiona," my mother added. "It's about what's appropriate." I nodded. "Okay, Mom." 2 words. I turned and walked down the hallway. My hands were clenched so tight my knuckles had gone white, but my face gave nothing away. That was the last time I waited for my parents to see me. We didn't stay at my parents' house. Marcus had booked a boutique hotel 20 minutes away, a converted carriage house with exposed beams and linen sheets that smelled like lavender. When we checked in, the front desk clerk scanned my membership card, and her posture shifted. "Welcome back, Ms. Wells. Your suite is ready. We've upgraded you." Marcus carried our bags in. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wallpaper. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I stopped needing their money a long time ago," I said. "It's not the money." "I know. It's that she said appropriate, like our life together is some discount version of Brielle's." Marcus sat beside me. He didn't try to fix it. He just sat there, which is exactly what I needed. I opened my laptop to check work email. Habit, not obligation. An Amex notification flashed at the top of the screen. Monthly statement. I swiped it away without blinking. The number on it would have made my parents reconsider the word appropriate, but they'd never see it, and that was fine. I thought about calling my mother back. I thought about explaining. Then I remembered being 22, fresh out of UConn on a full scholarship, calling home the day I got my first offer from a tech startup in Seattle. The salary was more than my father made. My mother's response, "That's nice. Brielle just got accepted to that event planning program." I closed the laptop and reached for my wallet to set it on the nightstand. Inside, between my license and a transit card, I caught a flash of matte black. A card with no visible number on the front, just a name etched in titanium. I slid the wallet into the drawer and turned off the lamp. My mother measured success by the man you married. I measured it by the life I built. The rehearsal dinner was at Luciano's. White tablecloths, leather booths, the kind of Italian restaurant where the wine list comes in a binder. Tyler had reserved the private dining room. He walked in like he owned the building. Navy blazer, slim-fit chinos, loafers without socks. He flagged down the sommelier before anyone sat down. "The Barolo, 2 bottles to start." $60 bottles. He ordered them like they were tap water. "Don't worry about the bill," Tyler announced, patting his blazer pocket. "I got this." Dinner unfolded in courses. Tyler held court, residency war stories, name-dropping attending physicians, describing procedures with a specificity that made my mother lean in and my father nod like he understood. Between the second and third courses, I noticed Tyler checking his phone under the table. His thumb swiped fast across what looked like a banking app. His jaw tightened for half a second. Then he put the phone away and ordered a third bottle of wine. He turned to me during the pasta course. "So, Fiona, what exactly do you do in tech? IT support or something?" The table waited. Tyler grinned, the grin of a man who'd never met anyone he thought was smarter than himself. "Product," I said. "I work in product." "Huh." He turned back to Brielle. "Babe, you should try the tiramisu." My mother filled the silence. "Tyler, you must be exhausted from saving lives all day." Tyler leaned back. "It's a calling, really." At the end of the meal, Tyler handed his card to the waiter. The waiter returned 2 minutes later and whispered something in Tyler's ear. Tyler reached for his wallet, pulled a second card. "Oh, this one's my personal card," he said, louder than necessary. "The other one's for hospital expenses." Marcus and I exchanged a look. He'd seen it too. Outside, walking to the car, I heard Tyler murmur to Brielle, "Babe, can you cover the tip? My card is being weird." She pulled out her debit card without hesitation. The next morning, I woke to Marcus making coffee in the hotel room's tiny kitchenette. My phone was already lit with notifications, but none of them were for me. Brielle's Instagram story, a mirror selfie in a bridal salon, surrounded by 4 women in matching robes and champagne flutes. My mother stood behind her, hands clasped, eyes glossy. Dress shopping with Mom and the girls. Best day ever. The girls, the wedding party, the inner circle. I was not in the photo. I was not in the salon. I had not been asked. Marcus brought me a mug. He looked at the screen. They didn't even ask. Nope. I called my mother. She picked up on the 4th ring, breathless with excitement. I could hear fabric rustling, someone squealing in the background. "Mom, I saw Brielle's story. You're dress shopping?" "Oh, yes, it's been such a fun morning. Brielle looks stunning in everything." A pause. "I thought you'd be busy. You always seem to have something going on." You always seem to have something going on. That sentence had followed me my entire life. It was my mother's way of saying, "You were never part of the plan, and we both know it." "Right," I said. "Have fun." I hung up. A text from Brielle arrived 30 seconds later. "Don't be dramatic, Fee. It's just dress shopping." I set the phone face down on the nightstand. 20 minutes later, Aunt Trish called. "I wasn't invited either," she said, her voice flat. "Your mother said it was only for the wedding party. I'm her sister-in-law. I've known that girl since she was born. I'm telling you, Fiona, they've been like this since you left. You just weren't here to see it." I stared at the ceiling. Marcus put a hand on my knee. "I saw it," I said. "I've always seen it." 2 days before the wedding, Brielle emailed the seating chart to the family. A color-coded PDF with little circles for each table and names typed in cursive font. Very on-brand. Marcus and I were at table 14. I counted the tables on the chart. 14 was the last one. Tucked near the service entrance to the kitchen, sandwiched between the DJ booth and a fire exit. The other names at our table were people I'd never heard of. Tyler's former roommate from undergrad, a couple from his gym, and someone labeled simply Dr. Ashford +1. Table 1, the family table, had my parents, Tyler's parents, Brielle's maid of honor, and her 2 closest friends. My name was not on it. My name was not on any table within sight of the head table. I called Brielle. "I'm your sister," I said, keeping my voice even. "Why am I at table 14? "We had to make room for Tyler's attendings," she said. "They're important for his career. You understand, right?" "And Aunt Trish?" "Table 12. Same thing. We just ran out of room." I understood perfectly. The family table had room for Tyler's gym buddy's wife, but not for the bride's only sister. I tried one more time. I called my mother. "Stop making this about you," she said. "It's Brielle's day." It was always Brielle's day. Every day in the Wells household had been Brielle's day for 27 years. Marcus sat across from me on the hotel bed. "Table 14, he said. "That's aggressive." "It's a message," I said. "They're telling me where I rank." I looked at the seating chart one more time. Aunt Trish, table 12. Me, table 14. Everyone who didn't fit the image got pushed to the edges. "I understand perfectly, Brielle," I whispered to no one. "And I'll remember it." That evening, I found Brielle in the kitchen of our parents' house, tasting wine samples with her maid of honor, a woman named Kelsey from Brielle's college sorority. "Quick question," I said. "Am I giving a toast at the reception? I'm your maid of—" I stopped. The word died in my mouth. Brielle glanced at Kelsey. Kelsey looked at her shoes. "You didn't ask me to be in your wedding party," I said. Brielle set down her wine glass. "I thought you wouldn't want to. You hate attention, Fee. You've always hated it." "I don't hate attention. I just never get any." My mother appeared in the doorway, drying a serving dish. "Besides, the bridal party is set. It would be awkward to change now. Kelsey has already ordered her dress." Kelsey nodded weakly. I looked at my mother. I looked at my sister. I looked at Kelsey, who clearly wished she were somewhere else. "Right," I said. That was all. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I walked out the back door and sat in the rental car for 10 minutes with the engine off. Marcus found me there. He opened the passenger door and slid in. "They didn't even consider you?" he asked quietly. "They never do." We sat in silence. Then I pulled out my phone and opened my email. I typed a message. Carefully, precisely, the way I draft product proposals at work. I read it twice before hitting send. Marcus watched me. "Who's that to?" "Someone who can help with a small arrangement," I said. "Nothing dramatic, just logistics." I wasn't angry anymore. I was past it. I was done asking to be included in a family that kept drawing the circle smaller. I was done. The last family dinner before the wedding was at my parents' house. Pot roast, red potatoes, my mother's recipe she'd been making since 1995. Tyler sat at the head of the table. Nobody invited him there. He just sat down. "So after residency," he said, cutting his meat with surgical precision. I'm looking at cardiology fellowships, interventional if possible. That's where the real money is. My father leaned back, grinning. That's my son-in-law, a real provider. My mother glowed. She hadn't glowed like that at my graduation, my first promotion, or the day I told her about Marcus. What about you two? Diane turned to me, then Marcus. Have you thought about when Marcus will settle into something more stable? Marcus didn't flinch. Architecture keeps me busy. Tyler jumped in. No offense, man, but architecture isn't exactly recession-proof. He laughed. Marcus didn't. Aunt Trish set her fork down. She'd been quiet all dinner. Tyler, what kind of car do you drive? Audi A5? Tyler straightened in his chair. Leased, but you know. Leased, Trish repeated. Interesting. Tyler's phone buzzed. He excused himself to the hallway. I was closest to the door and I heard every word. No, I told you. I need an extension. Just 2 more weeks. A pause. I understand the deadline. I'm asking for 2 weeks. Another pause. Then he lowered his voice to almost nothing. I'll have it. I will. He walked back in, face perfectly composed. Hospital billing stuff, he said, and speared a potato. Across the table, my father was still smiling. My mother was still glowing. Brielle was cutting her pot roast into tiny, perfect squares. Cardiology. That's where the real money is, spoken by a man begging someone for 2 more weeks. I stood in front of the hotel mirror at 7 a.m. The dress was navy silk, fitted, clean-lined, no embellishments. The kind of dress that whispered instead of shouted. If you knew designers, you'd recognize it. If you didn't, you'd think it was a nice dress from a department store. That was the point. Marcus came out of the bathroom in a charcoal suit, adjusting a navy tie that matched my dress without trying too hard. He looked at me in the mirror. You look like you're about to walk into a boardroom and acquire a company. I smiled. Just a wedding. I picked up my clutch, a small structured thing in dark leather. I opened it to check. Phone, lipstick, ID, and the card. Matte black. Heavier than it looked. I snapped the clutch shut. A text from Aunt Trish. I'll save you a seat. Table 14 Solidarity. I showed it to Marcus. He laughed. I like her. She's the only one who sees it. I slipped my phone into the clutch and checked myself one more time. Hair down, loose waves tucked behind one ear. No jewelry, no statement pieces. Just me. Whatever happens today, I said, I'm not going to make a scene. I'm just going to be there. Marcus fixed his cuffs. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. I know, that's the point. My phone buzzed inside the clutch. I pulled it out. An email notification. Subject line. Confirmed. Table arrangement. I read it, nodded once, and put the phone away. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What was that? Just a confirmation. I didn't go to that wedding to make a point, but I wasn't going to hide either. Not anymore. Okay, so right now I'm about to walk into my sister's wedding, the wedding my parents funded with $30,000 while I got nothing. My fiancé is sitting next to me in the car, and honestly, he's the only reason I didn't cancel this trip 3 days ago. If you've ever been the sibling who had to earn everything while someone else got it handed to them, you know exactly what this drive feels like. Tell me in the comments, have your parents ever treated your siblings' milestones like a bigger deal than yours? I want to hear your story. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe. Because what happens next at this reception? You're going to want to see it. Fairfield County Country Club sat on a hill above the Merritt Parkway, all stone columns and manicured hedges and a circular driveway where a valet in a white jacket opened car doors like each guest was arriving at the Oscars. Inside, the ballroom was a production. Crystal chandeliers, 3 of them, throwing light across 200-place settings of bone china and polished silver. Fresh flowers exploded from every surface, garden roses, peonies, trailing eucalyptus. The centerpieces alone must have cost a fortune. An ice sculpture of intertwined swans guarded the entrance to the open bar, which stretched 20 feet across the back wall. 4 bartenders in black vests stood at the ready. Marcus whistled low. "This is $80,000, I said, give or take. We found table 14, exactly where the seating chart promised, near the swinging kitchen doors, with a clear view of the busboys carrying dirty plates. Our table mates were already seated, 2 of Tyler's former college friends, a couple who introduced themselves as from Tyler's CrossFit gym, and an older man who said nothing and drank scotch. My mother circled the room in a champagne-colored dress with a corsage pinned to her left shoulder. She touched arms, kissed cheeks, accepted compliments. "We wanted everything perfect for our girl," she told each cluster of guests. My father trailed behind, champagne flute in hand. "The best for the best, right?" At table 1, I spotted Tyler's parents, his mother in a floral dress and a Coach handbag she kept tucked on her lap, his father in a suit that didn't quite fit through the shoulders. Kind faces, modest people. They looked around the ballroom the way you look at someone else's house. My parents had spent $30,000 on Brielle. Tyler was supposedly covering the rest. That left roughly $50,000 unaccounted for. I did the math in my head and set it aside. I'd made peace with the numbers a long time ago. The ceremony was outdoors, on a stone terrace overlooking a private garden. White chairs in perfect rows, an arch draped in wisteria, string quartet, golden hour light falling across everything like a filter. Brielle appeared at the end of the aisle and the crowd turned in unison. She was radiant, Vera Wang gown, cathedral veil, the kind of beauty that makes a room go quiet. My father walked her down the aisle, chin trembling, hands steady. Tyler stood at the altar in a tailored tuxedo, smiling wide. His groomsmen flanked him in matching navy. The officiant was a friend from Tyler's medical school, a small detail that Tyler mentioned twice during the program notes. The vows were personal. Brielle read hers from a folded paper, her voice cracking beautifully. Tyler delivered his from memory. "I promise to give you the life you deserve," he said. My mother pressed a tissue to her eyes in the front row. My father beamed. I sat in the 5th row. Marcus held my hand. Neither of us looked away from the ceremony, but neither of us said anything either. Afterward, guests lined up to congratulate the couple. I joined the line. When I reached Brielle, she hugged me tight and said, "You came. I'm so glad." Tyler shook my hand with the grip of a man who wanted you to know he was strong. "Good to have you, sis." A woman behind me, one of my mother's garden club friends, tapped my shoulder. "So what do you do, dear?" "I work in tech." "Oh," she brightened. "Like Geek Squad?" I smiled. "Something like that." Marcus squeezed my hand twice, our code for let it go. By the signing table, Tyler bent over the marriage certificate. I watched his pen move. His hand shook, just slightly, just for a second. I was the only one who noticed. Everyone saw a fairy tale. I saw a man whose hands shook when he signed his name. The reception hit full swing within the hour. The DJ played something with a bass line that rattled the water glasses. A photo booth with gold props, sparklers at every table setting. And the bar, open, flowing, generous. Tyler stood at the bar with 4 of his groomsmen, cocktails in hand. "Open bar, gentlemen," he announced, tapping the mahogany surface. My treat. His treat. My parents were footing the bar tab. Tyler hadn't paid for the ice in his glass. The speeches started during the salad course. My mother went first. She stood at the head table with a microphone and a folded piece of paper and talked for 5 uninterrupted minutes. She traced Brielle's life from infancy, first steps, first word. "Mama," she said, wiping a tear. Dance recitals, homecoming queen, college graduation. She called Tyler the answer to every mother's prayer. She did not say my name, not once. My father spoke next. He raised his glass. "I'm proud of both my girls." He paused. The word both hung in the air. "Brielle, You found a wonderful man. Here's to a lifetime of happiness. He sat down. Marcus leaned over. He said both, but he only talked about one. At table 12, Aunt Trish caught my eye across the room. She shook her head slowly. She'd heard it too. Kelsey, the maid of honor, delivered a toast about sorority memories and a spring break trip to Cabo. The crowd laughed. Tyler's best man told a story about medical school pranks. More laughter. I ate my filet mignon. It was cooked perfectly. Everything at this wedding was perfect. On the surface. Near the bar, the head bartender leaned toward the bar manager. They exchanged a few words. The manager frowned and picked up a phone. Something was off. I couldn't tell what yet. But the bartender's face had changed. The first dance was Ed Sheeran. Brielle's choice, obviously. She leaned into Tyler, her veil cascading over his arm. 200 phones rose in unison. My mother cried. The string quartet backed the DJ. It was, by any measure, beautiful. Then the father-daughter dance. Richard took Brielle's hand with a tenderness I'd only seen once before, at Brielle's high school graduation. My mother wept again. I sat at table 14 and watched my father hold my sister like she was the only daughter he'd ever had. Marcus touched my knee under the table. One of Brielle's bridesmaids slid into the empty chair beside me. Young, blonde highlights, teeth too white. So are you and your boyfriend going to get married too? He's my fiancé, I said. Oh, what does he do? Marcus answered. I'm an architect. Oh. She tilted her head. That's creative. She left to take a selfie near the ice sculpture. 10 minutes later, Tyler appeared at our table, cocktail in hand, tie loosened, grinning like a man who'd just won something. Hey, big sis, you doing okay back here? I'm doing just fine, Tyler. He leaned against the empty chair. Must be tough watching your little sister live the dream. She looks happy. I'm glad. Tyler sipped his drink. Listen, if you ever need financial advice, I know some people. Good guys. They could help you and Marcus get on track. He winked. Then he walked away, back toward the glow of the dance floor. Marcus stared after him. He just offered financial advice. To you. I lifted my water glass. Irony is wasted on the confident. Across the room, the bar manager stepped out from behind the counter. He was walking quickly, shoulders tight, heading straight toward Tyler. His face wasn't casual anymore. The bar manager intercepted Tyler near the photo booth. He was discreet. I'll give him that. He positioned himself between Tyler and the nearest cluster of guests, spoke close to Tyler's ear, hands clasped at his waist like a hotel concierge delivering bad news. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the body language. Tyler's shoulders rose, his chin pulled back. Then he reached into his jacket, casual, easy, and produced a credit card. Visa. He handed it over with a smile. Of course, he said, loud enough that I caught it from 20 feet away. The bar manager nodded and disappeared behind the bar. Tyler returned to his groomsmen, laughed at something, clapped aback. Normal. 4 minutes passed. The bar manager returned. He walked up to Tyler again, and this time his posture was stiffer. He leaned in. Tyler's face changed. The smile dimmed, then reset. He reached into his wallet, shuffled through cards, and pulled a second one. MasterCard. Try this one, Tyler said. The other one has a travel alert on it. The laugh that followed was too sharp, too quick. The bar manager took the card and left. Tyler turned back to his friends, but his hand went to his forehead. He wiped sweat. It was October, and the ballroom was air-conditioned. On the dance floor, Brielle spun with her bridesmaids. She didn't know. My mother drifted past Tyler's circle. Everything okay, sweetheart? Tyler flashed his teeth. Perfect, Mom. He'd started calling her Mom 3 months ago. She loved it. Behind the bar, I watched one bartender lean toward another. A whisper, a glance toward Tyler. Then both bartenders looked away, the careful, practiced look of people who know a problem is coming. Tyler smiled like a man holding a crumbling house together with his bare hands. The bar manager came back a third time. This time, he didn't pull Tyler aside. He walked straight to him in full view of the nearby tables. "Sir?" His voice was low, but not low enough. "This card has been declined as well. We'll need a valid form of payment to continue service." 3 tables heard it. I watched heads turn. A woman at table 6 set down her champagne flute. Tyler's face went red. He dug through his wallet, past receipts, past a gym membership card, past what looked like a maxed-out gas station rewards card, and pulled out one more. American Express. Regular green. He thrust it forward. "Must be a system error," he said. "Try this." The bar manager took it. He didn't say anything. He walked back to the bar, and Tyler stood there alone for 3 very long seconds before rejoining the crowd. I counted. 1 minute, 2, 3. The bartenders stopped pouring, all 4 of them at the same time. They set down bottles, stepped back from the bar, and folded their hands. The open bar was closed. The hum of the room changed. Guests who'd been walking toward the bar stopped. Conversations trailed off. Someone laughed nervously. Brielle ran over from the dance floor, veil trailing. "Ty, what's going on?" "Nothing, babe. Technical glitch." My mother heard the word glitch from across the room and materialized like smoke. "What's happening with the bar?" The bar manager stepped forward, professional, measured, unavoidable. "Ma'am, the cards provided have been declined. The current balance is $12,300. $12,300. The words landed like stones dropped into still water. The room went quiet enough to hear the ice melting in every glass. My father stood up from table 1. His face was the color of raw steak. "Tyler, what is this?" Brielle's eyes filled. Tyler's mouth opened, but nothing came out. 200 people stared. My mother turned to my father with the speed of a woman who'd spent her life managing appearances. "Pay it," she hissed. "Just pay it." Richard patted his jacket, then his pockets. "With what, Diane? We already spent everything on the wedding." The word everything echoed between them. They'd emptied their savings. The $30,000 check, the venue deposit, the flowers, the caterers, the ice sculpture of intertwined swans that now looked like 2 birds drowning. They'd spent it all. My mother's eyes darted across the room, scanning faces the way a drowning person scans for shore. Someone needs to handle this. Tyler stood in the middle of the ballroom floor, tie loosened, sweat visible on his upper lip. His best man had stepped away. His groomsmen had found other conversations. Nobody was standing with him. At table 1, Tyler's parents sat frozen. His mother opened her purse, a small leather clutch, and held out a debit card. "We have some," she said, her voice barely carrying. The bar manager shook his head. "We need the full amount authorized to resume service, ma'am." Brielle pressed both hands to her face. Her mascara was running. "This is my wedding. This can't be happening." "I'll fix it," Tyler said, reaching for his phone. "I just need to call my bank." "It's Saturday night, Tyler," my father snapped. "Banks aren't open." Tyler's phone hand dropped. My mother stood in the middle of the chaos she couldn't control. Her champagne-colored dress, her corsage, her 3 months of planning, all of it dissolving under the weight of $12,300 that nobody could pay. She turned her head. Slowly. She looked at every face in the room, past the neighbors, past the garden club, past Tyler's frozen parents. And then, finally, she looked at mine. I held her gaze. Then I opened my clutch. My fingers touched matte black titanium. I sat at table 14 with my hand inside my clutch and let the moment sit. It came in flashes. Not a slideshow, more like cards being flipped, one after another. "She's marrying a doctor. You always make everything about yourself." "That's nice, honey." The bare refrigerator door. No photos of me. Something small. Something you. Table 14. Seat closest to the kitchen. "Oh, and Fiona's here too. She works with computers." I looked at Brielle. She was standing in the middle of the ballroom in a $10,000 Vera Wang gown with mascara streaking her cheeks, and for the first time in my life, I didn't see the golden child. I saw a 27-year-old woman whose wedding was falling apart in real time. I looked at my mother. She was gripping the back of a chair, knuckles pale. She'd built this entire production, the fairy lights, the peonies, the $30,000 check, to prove something to this room. And now the room was watching it collapse. I looked at Tyler. He was staring at his phone like it held an answer that wasn't coming. I looked at Marcus. He was already looking at me. He didn't nod. He didn't nudge. He just looked at me the way he always did, like whatever I decided was the right decision, and he'd be beside me when I made it. This isn't about revenge. I'd said that to myself 100 times since I booked the flight. It was still true. This was about who I am. I closed my clutch around the card. I stood up. I smoothed the front of my navy silk dress. I pushed my chair in, and I walked toward the bar. 200 people watched me cross that ballroom floor. Most of them didn't know my name. They were about to. The bar was silent. 4 bartenders stood behind it like soldiers at attention, hands clasped, bottles untouched. The bar manager was off to the side, holding the portable card reader like evidence. I walked up. The heels of my shoes sounded like a metronome on the hardwood. I opened my clutch. The card was there. Amex Centurion, matte black, titanium core, no visible number on the front. Just my name, etched clean. I set it on the bar top. It landed with a sound heavier than plastic. Because it wasn't plastic. "Put everything on mine," I said. "The full tab." The bar manager looked at the card. His eyes widened for half a second. The flicker of recognition that comes with handling a card most people never see in person. He picked it up carefully. "Yes, ma'am. Right away." He walked to the terminal. Swiped. The room held its breath. 3 seconds. 5. The machine beeped. A green light. Approved. The bar manager turned to his team. "Resume service." Bottles lifted, ice cracked, glasses filled. The bartenders moved with the quiet efficiency of people released from a hostage situation. I turned around. The ballroom was still watching. My mother's mouth was open. My father's champagne glass was tilted at an angle that was spilling onto the tablecloth, but he didn't notice. Tyler stood rooted to the floor, his face drained of color. Brielle stared at me. Tears still on her cheeks, but her expression had shifted, from panic to something I couldn't name. "It's your wedding day, Brielle," I said. "The bar is open again." I walked back to table 14, sat down, placed my clutch on the table. Aunt Trish, from 2 tables over, caught my eye. Her chin was trembling. She pressed her hand to her heart and nodded once. Behind me, someone started clapping. Then someone else. Then it faded into the murmur of 200 people trying to understand what they'd just seen. Marcus picked up his water glass. "Well," he said. "Well," I said. Marcus took a sip of water and looked at me over the rim. "You okay?" I picked up a shrimp cocktail from the appetizer tray. "The shrimp cocktail is actually pretty good." He laughed. He actually laughed. And it broke something loose in my chest. Not sadness, not relief, just air, just space. Around us, the room was recalibrating. I could hear it in fragments. "Who is she?" A woman at table 9, leaning toward her husband. "The sister." The husband squinting in my direction. "She has a black card?" Table 11. "What does she do?" Table 7. My mother stood motionless for 30 full seconds. I counted, because counting is what I do when I can't control anything else. Then she walked briskly toward my father and whispered something in his ear. His face had lost its color entirely. He set down his champagne glass and didn't pick it up again. Tyler disappeared. I saw him walk toward the restrooms with his head down, phone pressed to his ear. He didn't come back for 10 minutes. Brielle stood in the center of the dance floor, alone. Her bridesmaids had scattered. Her new husband had vanished. She looked toward table 14, toward me, And for the first time in our lives, she didn't look down at me. She looked across. One of Brielle's bridesmaids, the blonde from earlier, appeared at our table breathlessly. Was that really a black card? It's just a credit card, I said. That's not just a credit card. Her eyes were saucer-wide. You need to spend like $250,000 a year to get one of those. I didn't confirm or deny. I ate another shrimp. Aunt Trish left table 12 and sat down beside me. She didn't say anything. She took my hand and held it, and that was enough. At table 3, Tyler's best man was hunched over his phone, scrolling. I could see the search bar from here. He'd typed, Amex Centurion card requirements. His face went pale. So yeah, that just happened. I walked up to the bar at my sister's wedding, the wedding my parents paid $30,000 for while I got nothing. And I covered the $12,000 tab that my sister's doctor husband couldn't pay. With a card my parents didn't even know I had. Right now, the whole room is staring at me. And for the first time in my life, my mother is the one who doesn't know what to say. If you've ever had a moment where the people who underestimated you finally saw the real you, tell me about it. Drop it in the comments and hit that notification bell, because we're not done yet. 20 minutes passed, the bar resumed, conversations restarted. The DJ played something upbeat, and a few couples drifted back to the dance floor. But the energy in the room had shifted, like a glass that had been cracked but not yet shattered. My mother appeared at table 14. She was standing, not sitting, arms crossed, chin lifted, the posture of a woman who'd come to reclaim control. Can I talk to you? She said. Outside. Whatever you have to say, you can say it here. She glanced at Marcus, at Aunt Trish, at the CrossFit couple who'd suddenly become very interested in their dessert plates. Fiona, this is a private matter. It stopped being private when the bar shut down in front of 200 people. Her jaw tightened. She lowered her voice, but not enough. Where did you get that card? What are you trying to do? Embarrass us? Embarrass you? I set my fork down. I just saved the reception. This isn't the time for show-offs, Fiona. I wasn't showing off. Tyler's cards were declined. Someone had to pay. You could have done it quietly, she said. Slip the card to the manager. You didn't have to make a scene. There was no scene until the bar stopped serving, Mom. I kept my voice level. I ended the scene. You're the one starting a new one. She stared at me. Her mouth worked, but nothing came out. At the next table, my mother's friend, the one who'd asked if I worked at Geek Squad, was watching with her fork suspended in mid-air. My mother turned and walked away. She didn't look back, but her step was uneven, and her corsage was crooked, and for the first time in my life, Diane Wells did not have the last word. Marcus exhaled. You good? I'm good. Tyler emerged from the restroom corridor like a man returning from a sentencing, red-rimmed eyes, tie pulled to the side. His phone was clutched in his hand, screen dark. Brielle met him halfway across the ballroom. She'd stopped crying, but her face was swollen. She grabbed his arm. Tyler, what happened? Why were your cards declined? It's just a freeze, babe. I'll call the bank on Monday. It's 3 cards, Tyler. 3. My father materialized behind Brielle. He was done with champagne. He was done with toasts. His voice was low and flat, the voice of an insurance manager who'd spent 30 years assessing risk. Tyler, be honest. Right now. Tyler's eyes swept the room. Guests were pretending not to watch, which meant everyone was watching. He looked at the floor. I have some debt, he said, from medical school. How much? My father asked. Silence. Tyler swallowed. His Adam's apple jumped. 320,000. The number dropped into the room like a stone into a well. You could count the seconds before it hit bottom. My mother grabbed the back of a chair. Brielle's hand fell from Tyler's arm. 300. Brielle's voice cracked. Tyler, you told me you had a plan. You said your parents helped with the loans. From table 1, Tyler's mother spoke. Her voice was small and shaking. We couldn't help. We don't have that kind of money. Tyler's father stared at the centerpiece. He didn't speak. I was going to pay it off after my fellowship, Tyler said. It's normal for doctors. Everyone in my program has loans. You lied to me, Brielle said. You looked at me and lied. My father turned to my mother. His voice carried, not shouting, but sharp enough that the nearest tables heard every syllable. You said he was a good choice, Diane. You said he was stable. Brielle was shaking. She stood in her Vera Wang gown under a crystal chandelier that cost more than Tyler's monthly income, and she asked the question no bride should have to ask on her wedding night. Is it just the student loans? Tyler didn't answer immediately. He looked at his shoes, Italian leather, the pair he'd bragged about at the rehearsal dinner. There's some credit card debt too, he said. How much? About 45,000. The sound Brielle made wasn't a word. It was air leaving her body. 45,000 on credit cards? Her voice pitched upward. Tyler, we just signed a lease on that apartment. You told me we could afford it. Tyler's hands came up, palms out. I needed to keep up appearances. The Audi, the clothes, the dinners. It's expected when you're a doctor. You have to look successful before you are successful. Expected? My mother stepped forward, voice tight. Nobody expected you to lie about everything. My father cut in. You borrowed from us too. You asked me for 5,000 last month for medical equipment. Tyler flinched. I was going to pay it back. With what? My father said. You can't pay a bar tab, Tyler. With what were you going to pay me? Silence. Tyler had no answer. He stood in the center of the room he'd promised to fund. Wearing a tuxedo, he'd probably put on a credit card, married to a woman he'd lied to, in front of 200 people who now knew every number. I hadn't moved from table 14. I hadn't said a single word since the bar reopened. I didn't need to. Aunt Trish leaned over. This is why you should know someone before you write them a $30,000 check. Brielle turned and looked at me. It wasn't pity on her face. It wasn't condescension. It was recognition. Raw and awful and new. Guests were leaving. Not all at once. That would be too dramatic for Connecticut. They left in pairs and small groups, slipping out with murmured excuses about babysitters and long drives. But they were leaving. The DJ had lowered the music to a murmur. The bartenders, freshly reauthorized on my card, stood polishing glasses that no one was ordering. My father sat down heavily at an empty table. Not table 1. He couldn't face Tyler's parents. Not table 14. He wasn't ready for me. He chose table 8 alone and put his head in his hands. I walked over, not because anyone asked me to, because he was my father. I pulled out a chair and sat across from him. He looked up. His eyes were wet. The card, he said. How do you have a card like that? I've been working in tech for 8 years, Dad. I'm a senior director. I manage a team of 60 people. The product I oversee is used by millions. He blinked. I didn't know. You didn't ask. The words landed softly. I didn't raise my voice. He rubbed his face. His wedding ring caught the chandelier light. We gave Brielle everything, he said. And you? I didn't need your money, Dad. I paused. I needed you to see me, and you couldn't even do that. His breath hitched. His shoulders moved in a way I'd never seen before. Richard Wells, who'd spent 60 years maintaining composure, was crying at an empty table in a country club ballroom. Across the room, my mother stood by the entrance, arms crossed, watching us. She didn't approach. She didn't interrupt. For the first time in 3 decades, Diane Wells was the one on the outside looking in. I put my hand on my father's shoulder. It's not too late, I said, but I'm not going to keep coming back to be invisible. He covered my hand with his. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. I found her in the hallway outside the ballroom. She was sitting on a velvet bench beneath a painting of some colonial-era gentleman, her cathedral veil pooled around her like a deflated cloud. Mascara tracks, red nose, still beautiful, even wrecked. Did you know? Brielle asked. About Tyler? I had a feeling, I said. But no, I didn't know the specifics. She nodded, wiping her nose with the back of her hand, a gesture that would have horrified our mother. You paid $12,000 for my wedding bar. Why? I sat down beside her. The bench was barely wide enough for both of us. Our shoulders touched. Because it's your wedding day, I said, and I'm your sister. Brielle pressed her lips together, her chin crumpled. I've been terrible to you. You weren't terrible, you just never noticed. I noticed. Her voice was small. It was easier not to say anything. Mom always made it seem like you were fine on your own, like you chose to be separate. I am fine on my own, but I shouldn't have had to be. She turned to look at me, really look, the way sisters are supposed to. Can we start over? Not start over, start being real. I'd like that, I said. But it has to mean something, Brielle, not just tonight. I know. We sat in silence for a moment. Somewhere inside, the DJ was playing something slow. Guests were dancing. The wedding was continuing without the bride, because weddings are machines that keep running once you wind them up. What do I do about Tyler? She whispered. That's your decision, but you deserve to know who you married. I paused. Talk to a financial advisor, talk to a lawyer, get the full picture before you decide anything. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I let her. 3 words. I'm your sister. And for the first time in 27 years, they meant something. The ballroom was nearly empty when my mother finally came to me. The caterers were stacking chairs. The ice sculpture had melted into a shapeless lump. The fairy lights were still on, but they looked tired now, just string and wire without the magic of a crowd to reflect them. Diane Wells approached table 14, my table, the table she'd assigned me, and stood across from me with her hands folded. Fiona, she swallowed. I owe you an apology. I waited. I should have handled things differently. I should have included you more. Included me more? I kept my voice calm. You gave Brielle $30,000 and told me my wedding wasn't appropriate. I didn't mean it like that. What did you mean, Mom? She looked at the empty ballroom. Her corsage was wilted now. Her champagne dress had a wine stain near the hem that she hadn't noticed. She looked older than 57. I thought Tyler was a safe choice, she said. A doctor. I thought Brielle would be taken care of. And you? She trailed off. You always seemed like you didn't need us. I didn't need your money. But I was your daughter. I needed you to treat me like one. Her eyes filled. I know that now. Knowing isn't enough, Mom. I need to see it. She reached for my hand. I let her take it. Her fingers were cold, the way they always got when she was anxious. She wrapped both hands around mine. I didn't squeeze back. Not yet. The gesture was hers to offer, and mine to accept on my own timeline. I'm sorry, Fiona. I hear you, I said. And I meant it. But hearing and healing are not the same thing, and I wasn't going to pretend they were. Marcus appeared at the edge of the room, coat over his arm, ready when I was. The rental car hummed through Connecticut back roads. October trees lined the highway, their leaves just starting to turn, red and amber and the kind of gold that looks like money. The sky was clear, stars you can't see in Seattle. Marcus drove. I let my head rest against the window. $12,000 for a bar tab, he said. That's a new record for you. I've closed bigger deals. I know you have. He smiled. You didn't do it for them, did you? I did it for Brielle. It was her wedding day. Nobody should have their wedding ruined like that. And the card? The card is just a card. It's what it represents that matters. He was quiet for a moment. The road curved through a stand of birch trees. Their white trunks glowed in the headlights. So, what does it represent? That I built something, without them, despite them. He reached across the console and held my hand. My phone buzzed in my clutch. I checked it. 3 missed calls from my mother, 2 from my father, and one text from Brielle. "Thank you, Fee. I mean it." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed back, "I know, get some rest." Beneath those notifications, an email from work. Subject line, Promotion Committee, VP of Product, offer pending. I opened it, scanned the first line, and closed the app. "What was that?" Marcus asked. "Work. Something about a promotion." "VP?" "VP." He squeezed my hand. "When are you going to deal with that?" "Tomorrow," I said. "Tonight, I just want this." I gestured at the windshield, the road, the stars, the quiet. He understood. He always did. That was the thing about Marcus Reed. He never needed me to explain the things that mattered. 1 week later, I was back in Seattle. Morning light came through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our apartment in Capitol Hill. Marcus was sketching at the kitchen table. I was drinking coffee and staring at the Cascade Range. Brielle called on Wednesday. "Tyler came clean about the rest," she said. Her voice was flat, like someone reading lines from a report. "There's another 15,000 he didn't mention. New credit cards opened in the last 6 months. 15,000 more. I did the math. Student loans at 320,000, credit cards at 45, the new cards at 15, 380,000 total. For a third-year resident making 65,000 a year. I saw a financial advisor yesterday," Brielle continued. "She said we need to consolidate everything and build a structured payoff plan. She said it could take 10 years. 10 years is a long time." "Yeah." A pause. "It is." I didn't tell her what to do. That wasn't my place. On Thursday, my phone rang. A 860 area code. Hartford. "Fiona, it's Dad." I almost dropped my mug. My father hadn't called me in 4 years. He texted sometimes. Short, safe texts. "Happy birthday. Merry Christmas." Never a call. "I want to know about your work," he said. His voice was quieter than I remembered. "Tell me what you do." So I told him. I told him about the team, the product, the users. I told him about the launches and the late nights, and the time our server crashed 40 minutes before a board presentation, and I fixed it with a workaround I designed in the stairwell. He listened. He asked questions. Real questions. My father called to ask about my work. It only took 30 years. My mother sent an email the following day. Long, carefully worded. An apology. Sincere in places, self-justifying in others. Near the end, "I just didn't want you to struggle like I did when I was young." I read it twice. I understood her. But understanding someone doesn't mean the wound is closed. 6 months later. A vineyard in Napa Valley. 80 guests. No ice sculptures. No swans. No $30,000 checks. Marcus and I paid for everything ourselves. The ceremony was under a pergola draped in wisteria. The real kind, growing from the ground, not shipped in from a florist. The chairs were mismatched on purpose. The caterer was a local farm-to-table outfit that Brielle helped me find. The wine was from the vineyard we were standing in. My father walked me down the aisle. He cried before we reached the second row. I held his arm and didn't rush him. My mother sat in the front row. She wore a pale blue dress, simple, elegant, not the centerpiece of attention. She didn't give a speech. She didn't organize the seating chart. She sat and she watched, and when I caught her eye during the vows, she pressed her hand to her mouth and nodded. Brielle was my maid of honor. She stood beside me with her hair pulled back, and a dress we'd picked out together on a video call, the first of many video calls we'd started having every Sunday evening. When it was time for the toast, she lifted her glass. "My sister paid for my wedding bar without blinking," she said. Not because she wanted to prove something, but because that's who she is. I spent 27 years not seeing her. I won't make that mistake again. The crowd raised their glasses. Aunt Trish, seated at table 3, a good table, said, "About time," loud enough for everyone to hear. Marcus and I danced under string lights as the sun went down over the valley. No DJ. Just a playlist we'd built together over 6 Sunday mornings. Tyler wasn't there. Brielle and Tyler were working on things, but she came alone. And she was okay with that. I didn't need $30,000. I just needed the people I loved to show up, and this time, they did. After the honeymoon, a week in British Columbia, just cabins and coastline, and Marcus photographing every bridge we crossed, I made a call. Mom. Fiona. She sounded careful. She'd been sounding careful for months, the way people do when they know the ground has shifted. I love you, I said. But I need you to understand something. Okay. I'm not going to keep earning my place in this family. I earned it by being born into it. Silence. Then, I know, Fiona. I'm trying. Trying is good, but I'll be watching actions, not words. That's fair. Her voice was thick. Your father and I, we want to come visit you in Seattle. See where you work. See the apartment. We've never been. I paused. She was right. In 8 years, my parents had never once visited me. I'd like that, I said. Let's plan it. Really? Really. We talked for another 10 minutes. It was the longest conversation we'd had in years that didn't end with me feeling smaller than when it started. That evening, Marcus and I stood on our balcony. The sun was setting over Elliott Bay. The water was copper and silver, and a ferry was cutting across the Sound toward Bainbridge Island. We could hear music from a restaurant down the block. The air smelled like salt and pine. Think they'll really change? Marcus asked. Maybe, I said. Maybe not completely, but I changed, and that's what matters. He put his arm around me. I leaned into him. Below us, the city moved. Traffic, joggers, a woman walking a golden retriever along the waterfront. I'd spent 30 years waiting for my parents to see me. Somewhere around year 26, I stopped waiting and built a life worth seeing. The difference was, I built it for myself. 3 months after our wedding, Brielle called on a Sunday, our usual time. She sounded steady, which was more than she'd managed in the weeks right after the reception. Tyler didn't get the fellowship, she said. Cardiology? He applied to 3 programs. 2 rejected him outright. The 3rd ran a background check and flagged his credit history. She exhaled. Turns out when your credit score is in the low 500s, it matters, even for doctors. Tyler had finished his residency. He was now a general internist at a small outpatient clinic outside Hartford. A fine job, a respectable job, but not the cardiology empire he'd narrated at my parents' dinner table. His salary was solid, but not enough to dent $380,000 in debt with any speed. He traded the Audi in, Brielle said. He's driving a used Civic now. I didn't say anything. There was no satisfaction in it, just the quiet thud of reality catching up to someone who'd been running from it. We're in counseling, she continued. He lied about so much, Fee. The money, his parents' finances, even some of his residency evaluations. But I think he's trying. Do you love him? She took a long time. I don't know anymore. I loved who I thought he was. Then figure out who he actually is, and decide if that's enough. My parents had stopped sending money to Tyler. My father told me on one of our now regular calls. I learned my lesson. My mother added, from the extension, I should have listened more. I didn't say I told you so. There was no point. Reality had told them for me. Tyler's Audi, his Italian loafers, his Dom Perignon confidence, all of it repossessed by the truth. Reality has a way of repossessing the things you never earned. I want to talk to you for a minute. Not about Tyler, not about the bar tab, not about the card, about the thing underneath all of it. I used to think the worst thing my parents did was give my sister $30,000 and give me nothing. I used to lie awake, calculating the unfairness of it. The dollar amount, the guest count, the square footage of love measured in party decorations and cake samples. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that I believed them. I believed that I wasn't worth it. I carried that belief across the country through promotions and product launches and stock options that most people would trade their savings for, and still, somewhere in the back of my mind, I measured myself by their yardstick. It took me years to build something they couldn't ignore, and I'm proud of every brick. But the truth is, I shouldn't have needed to be impressive to be loved. No one should. The black card opened a bar tab, $12,300. But what it really opened was a conversation my family had been avoiding for 30 years. It made the invisible visible. It put a number on something that had no price, the gap between who they thought I was and who I'd become. My parents aren't perfect. They may never be. My mother still slips into old patterns sometimes, comparing, deflecting, managing the narrative. But she's aware of it now. And my father calls every Thursday. He asks about work. He asks about Marcus. He asked me last week if I was happy. I said yes. And I meant it. If you're watching this, and you've been the invisible child, the one who does everything right and still gets overlooked, I see you. I see you. And I want you to know something. You're worth more than a check. You always were. Monday morning, Seattle. I'm sitting at my desk in our apartment. Early light coming through the windows, the kind of light that makes everything look new. The Cascade Range is out there somewhere behind the clouds. My coffee is still hot. On my desk, a framed photo from the wedding, Marcus and me under the pergola, laughing at something Aunt Trish said during the ceremony. Small frame, simple wood, no crystal, no gold. Next to it, a card that arrived last week. Brielle's handwriting, loopy, familiar, the same handwriting she'd had since grade school. To the strongest person I know. Love, your little sister. And another card, this one in handwriting I almost didn't recognize because I'd so rarely seen it directed at me. My father's hand, shaky, deliberate, the pen pressed hard into the paper like he wanted to make sure it stuck. Proud of you, kiddo. Always was. Should have said it sooner. I keep both cards on my desk, not because I need the validation, because they represent something I waited a long time for. Not perfection, not some fairy tale family reunion, but honesty. Late, imperfect, uncomfortable honesty. I take a sip of coffee. I open my laptop. There are 47 emails waiting, a product review at 10, and a team stand-up at noon. VP title on the door. 63 people counting on me to show up prepared. My wallet sits beside the keyboard. Inside it, the black card. Matte black. Titanium. My name etched on the front. But right now, it's just a card. A piece of metal in a leather wallet next to a cold cup of coffee. Because my value was never in that card. It was never in a check, or a table number, or whether my photo made it onto a refrigerator. The black card is just metal. What it bought that night wasn't drinks. It was the truth. And the truth, once spoken, can't be declined. If you had to choose, would you have paid the bar tab, or would you have let them figure it out themselves? I'd love to hear your answer in the comments. And honestly, every story I tell here starts because someone like you shared something real. If this one hit close to home, if you've ever been the child who had to build everything from scratch while someone else got the head start, I hear you. You can find more stories like this one in the description below. Hit subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves.